It's time for a Damn Good Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Clement. From corporate executive to CEO to entrepreneur and the founder of Damn Good Marketing Live. This podcast is all about digital marketing, building a business you love, and creating a brand that's authentic to who you are. So if you're ready for honest, raw marketing conversations that you will not find anywhere else, let's freaking get it.
So everybody listening in, welcome to Damn Good Marketing Podcast, and we just have a live audience.
Shelby, what an intro.
I know, right?
Hey, everyone.
I didn't prep her, I just said it, you know? I don't really like to prep that much, because when I prep, I'm like, wait, what's the next question?
Yeah.
And I'm not really focused on you.
Okay.
And so, I want to just talk.
Okay,
Are you
let's
down?
talk. Yes. And I like the walkout song, by the way. I've never had one of those.
Do you feel so special?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
That is literally the song I'm like jamming into my car, like on the way to work right now when I need to like pump myself up. That's what I'm listening to.
You know, the funny fact about all these walkout songs is I like to let the speakers choose it because like my pump and their pump are completely different. And so like even if I'm like, I've never heard that song, I'm like, this is what lights their soul on fire and what's really gonna get them excited to talk in front of a room. So like I don't really care what it is.
I agree.
I'm excited. Okay. So can you give us like just a snapshot really quickly of like who Rachel Eggie is? So like act like no one knows who you are.
Okay. Like I'm not going into my story. That's not a snapshot. You just want me to tell you what I do? Yeah, tell us who Rachel is. Rachel. So yes, I had a dream from when I was really young, honestly. You know what? I am going to tell my story. I think this is the time. Yeah. But first off, I want to tell y'all, thank y'all so much because I know, first off, this whole thing is amazing. This venue is amazing. I know how much work you put into this whole thing. And all these people are still here 2 days later. That just goes to show that each one of you are already investing in yourself and what you are looking and trying to do. So amazing, and I appreciate y'all for still being here. But I do want to get this audience involved before we start. Okay, so if anyone here has had something that has been placed on their heart, an idea, whether it's starting a new business or taking a step to investing in yourself or an idea within a business that you work for and you have an idea, I want you to stand up. Oh, everyone.
Okay, you're listening in, everybody stood up. So just say
If you're not standing, you're either holding back or maybe it hasn't been placed on your heart yet. Okay, so now I want you to stay standing if you've shared that idea with someone. Or if you've just kept it to yourself and you haven't shared it with anyone, sit down. Okay? Now stay standing if you've ever shared something with anyone and you've heard, and the first thing, or you've heard at some point something doubtful, like a question that gives you doubt, like, are you sure that's going to work? Is that going to be a good idea? What if this happens? So just stay standing if you heard that. If you have heard that. Okay, so I want y'all to look around the room right now. This is proof that we live in a world of doubt and negative comments. So what I'm hoping that what we can share today is just fighting through that and pursuing your dreams, not based on what everyone else is telling you, because this is literally the world we live in. And I actually have the chills right now because I didn't realize how many people are going to be standing, but it's sad. So today, that's what I want to focus on. And hopefully by the end of this, we're all like, we're going to do our damn thing. But y'all can stay seated. Thank y'all.
Wait, open that up. Oh my
Okay.
God. Okay, who are you?
So my name is Rachel Eggie Gibbs from Baton Rouge, born and raised, and when I was 14, I always wanted to do hair since I was 14, and I just loved making people feel beautiful. Like people would go get their hair done at events and not be happy, and they'd be upset, and so I'd be like, let me try to fix it. And so after high school, I told my parents, I'm like, look, I'm going to go to cosmetology school. And they were like, let's go to college and then you can go to cosmetology school. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went to LSU and I graduated in marketing. And so after graduation, I ended up moving to Houston and I went to the cosmetology school of Veda in the Woodlands. And being enrolled in school, there was a speaker that came and spoke to us, and the title of his presentation was The Six-Figure Hairstylist. And after that class, I was like, that's what kind of stylist I want to be, right? Not just about the money, but it was more about the level of respect that the stylist earns in the industry and from other people. So after cosmetology school, I had all these job offers, and people, and I would go in these salons, and there was just no vibe. There were like people chilling in the break room. It was like the epitome of what, you would think of, oh, you just do hair kind of thing. So I wasn't driven by it. So then I Googled best salon in Houston, and I had zero money at the time because I just graduated, and their cheapest haircut was like $100. I was like, I'm gonna go in as a client and just kind of feel this out, right? So I went in and I walked in and I saw it. It was like this high-end, fast-paced, everyone was well-dressed, but the best part about it was even though it was high-end, you still felt comfortable. It wasn't like this like snooty, right? You didn't have to be wearing a designer purse. It was like, it was comfortable. And I was like, this is where I need to be. So I trained under this guy, Suleiman Telfa, for about 1.5 years. And I was in Houston for like 2.5 years, and I loved it. I was in a serious relationship with a guy in Houston. I had just gotten a dog. I'm at this salon where they make literally either between $75,000 and $350,000 as a stylist. It was like, life was good, right? Well, there's been 2 times in my life that this has happened, and I can still remember where I was standing in my apartment when it was placed on my heart to move back to Baton Rouge. And at the time, it's like, wait, why? Like, things are going good. Like, why would I need to go back right now? And yeah, surprise, he does that. So I call my parents and I'm like, okay, I'm quitting the salon. I was like, I'm gonna move back, probably open a salon, had this plan. And, what every parent wants for their children is the best, right? And so how they saw it was I was in the best place because you have a salon that already has a career path for success. So they said, Rach, we would love for you to come home, but like, please do not quit this job. So I'm stubborn, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like literally envisioning my vision board in my like childhood bedroom because I knew I was gonna have to move back in there because I had no money.
Yeah.
So
but you were okay with that. You're like, whatever.
It is what it is. You gotta do what you have to do. So the next day, I go to the owners and I'm like, look, I'm going back to Baton Rouge, pretty much. And even they were like, what are you doing? Like, you just trained for almost 2 years. Like, you're about to start building a clientele, whatever. So they were like, you don't need to stay for 2 more weeks. Why don't you just go ahead and go? And so I had a dog at the time, and the guy I was dating, he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, and my mom won't let me keep my dog because I had to live at home. And so he's like, look, I'll keep the dog, but if you break up with me, you're not getting Lulu back. Oh, okay. And I was like, well, he's not my husband, so that clearly didn't end well. Yeah. So anyway, so I moved back home, and this next part, my parents hate when I tell it, but it's so important. It's a huge part of the story. So that week, we're sitting down, they're talking about the plan, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and I'm like, okay, so here's my plan. I'm gonna go booth rent for a few years, 5 years, whatever, and then my goal is to open the salon in 5 years. And so immediately, they just start asking me all these questions. And it's honestly questions I haven't even thought about. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I was just gonna figure it out along, as I go, which didn't make them feel good, but they said, okay. And so I go into the bedroom, and it's, we share a wall. And my parents, I hear them, and I hear my dad, and he's like, Bryn, she's gonna do this, and then she's just gonna have to go work at a salon. And I was devastated because it's like, my parents have always been there's 4 of us kids and like our biggest supporters to our right, but it's like to hear how much doubt there was. And so I remember running outside and sitting in a chair, and I just started bawling. And then they were so upset that I found that, that I heard them because they don't want that. But I'm glad it happened because I do think subconsciously that fueled me. Yes. And then I started seeking out people to booth rent. And then of course the guy I went to, he told me, he was like, Rach, you can't do this. He's like, you don't have a clientele. He's like, you go into booth rental like after you've built a business, and then you go into booth rental. And I'm just like, look, just take my money to rent and then just give me a chance. And I'm so grateful that he did. But again, walked out of there, right, with another person just being like, you can't really do this. Yeah. And again, it fueled me. So I was 25 at the time, and your 20s are already so hard, right? I feel like that's like your decade of just figuring stuff out. Yeah. And so this next part was where I received my affirmation of this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I went to, so in cosmetology school, there's two rules. You can't talk about God or politics, okay? I don't watch the news, so luckily I live in my naive bubble, so that's not an issue. God, for whatever reason in cosmetology school, every one of my clients we would end up talking about. Yeah. And these teachers would be like, Rach, there's another lady here with a Bible. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Yeah. And so I was actually raised Catholic. And when I was a junior, it was confirmation, and I was like, I just had questions. I wasn't ready to be confirmed because I was still curious and I wanted to feel stronger about it. But I didn't have an option. Like I was told I had to be confirmed. So in the cosmetology, I have these clients and they're like, hey, you need to go to this church, the Fellowship of the Woodlands. And I was like, I can't go there. I'm Catholic. Like it's a non-denomination church. I hope no one gets offended in this room. So I finally go, and when I tell you, just tears just started streaming down my face. Like that music is so strong, the whole hour. And so when I moved back to Baton Rouge, I looked up non-denomination churches, and I went for the first time. And the first sermon was about God wants you to know your gift. And about what you do with his calling that he puts on your heart. And I have the chills saying it because literally I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much doubt right now, but hearing this, and years later I found this piece of paper that I had written on that day, and that's what it said. It said, God wants you to know your gift, embrace it to change the world around you. And in that hour, all those comments that were swirling in my head were lifted. And it was like, this is what I was supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And from there on, it's like, okay, so then fast forward, I opened the first salon in 2020. Or I started hiring people in 2019. We opened our doors in 2020. We became a multi-million-dollar company by 2022, and we have 3 locations that will be opening by the end of we'll have 3 locations by the end of this year. But one of the biggest other things that I've been so grateful for is that I have been able to step out of the business. And that was one of my things that I set out to do when I opened. It said every hour you're in the business, you're losing an hour that you can work on it. So in 2022, I was able to retire and allow that business to still run without me working behind the chair, which is what allowed me to work with the cancer patients post-chemo.
Yeah. I want to hone in on something really quick.
Go ahead.
If she would have let her dad, someone that loves you and adores you and really their biggest fear is that you're going to fail, or you're going to get hurt, or you're going to cry, like all these things. It's not that he didn't believe in you. It's the fact that it scared him because you're his baby girl. Yes. And so if you would have let your dad or someone else, or the guy that said, you don't have a clientele, you can't rent for me, stop you, you would never be where you are today.
Not at all.
You wouldn't be helping cancer patients.
Not at all.
You wouldn't have a TV show. You wouldn't have 3 locations that you're proudly excited about that set the bar for even just hair salons. Just have to respect and everything for that stylist. So kudos to you. And anybody that has doubt in this room or listening to this podcast really just has to understand that everybody deals with someone that doubts them. It depends on if they're doing it out of love. It's not out of disrespect. Or there's people that do, maybe it is disrespect. But you have to take that into fuel and then say, hey, watch what happens. I want you to dive into something that was really impactful. Wow, did y'all see that reflex? Whatever, you understand. Anyway, irrelevant. Okay, the powerful moment that happened to you, was it last year when you decided to, 2 years ago. You bravely walked up on stage holding a sign and told no one and just shaved your head. Can you walk us through the journey of why you got called to do that? Can you tell everybody why you did that? And can you tell everybody what it was for? And then I want you to go into what happened after.
Yes, so this is the second time I was referring to. There's a event in Baton Rouge that's called Best Dress, and I was asked to be in it. And I hesitated with saying yes or no because I've been blessed that I personally haven't had someone affected by cancer or like die from cancer. And so I went back and forth, and then I was like, you know what, it's for a good cause, we can help raise money. Let's say yes. So I say yes, and then I'm sitting in the bathtub one day, and again, if you've experienced this, you know the feeling, and some of you are nodding your heads because you've had this. It is something that is literally so strongly placed on your heart, you know it's him saying something. Yep. And the thought was to shave my head, and I'm going back and forth in the bathtub. And I'm like, why would I shave my head? I'm like, I'm literally building my social media platforms using my long hair for tutorials and to educate people. And so I went back and forth, and I didn't tell anyone except for my husband. And so when I brought it to him, I was like, babe, I can't shake this off. I said, but for some reason, God's calling me to shave my head the night of Best Dress. And he looked at me, he was like, well, you have to do it. Oh. Yeah, no hesitation. He was like, well, then you have to do it. And so I was like, okay. And I still was like, oh my God, okay, am I really doing this? Yeah. Well, then I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh, no. I was like, I'm not gonna not have hair, and then who knows what my body does when I have a baby, right? Yeah. Whether it's 17 pounds or 50 pounds or 80 pounds you gain. You know, you don't know. So I was like, no. Well, then this all happened in a period of 6 months. So then in that period, after mentally, I just decided, like, I don't think. A cancer center, Marybird, approached us, and they were just asking the salon if we'd be willing to donate haircuts for women who are post-chemo. Yeah. So apparently there was a lady who her hair was growing back, and the doctor was like, hey, are you excited to go to a salon and get your hair cut? And he said it was just the most awkward moment because she got so uncomfortable, she didn't know what to do or where to go. And so this doctor, Dr. Varnado, the sweetest man, he was like, I can never let a woman feel like this again. And so he just started asking around about salons. And so when they approached us, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, God is literally saying that you have to do this, because now if women are coming and growing their hair out, it's like if I can truly go through the grow out myself, I'm only going to be able to coach them better. And just to be able to relate on like the grow out phase, right? So didn't tell anyone. Then a week before the event, they don't tell you like who you're paired with or the order. And so a week before we have the like final event, and they said that I was the last one, which worked out because I wasn't going to I didn't want to interrupt the show, right? And then the partner was an oncologist. And it's like, what were the, and so again, I mean, I take signs, but I was like, okay,
I'm getting slapped in the face right now.
Yes. Oh, like you're doing it. And so I go to Sanjay, we start meeting, and I had to tell him because he was a part of it. And so I bring it to him, and he was actually the one, he's dealt with just like people taking things the wrong way, because being an oncologist, he's very present on social media and like TikTok. So he's like, Rach, we have to be very careful on what words we use on the sign, because it can be taken the wrong way. So I was like, do you mind handling that? Because I feel like you know the most, and I definitely don't want to like say something wrong. And so anyways, the night comes and we do it. So I get on stage and we do our dance, and then we get back in the middle, and he takes out the clippers and just starts shaving my head. And it's crazy because like I was smiling, but I was holding back so many tears. And if you really go into the video, like you can see my face. I'm like, I'm scared out of my mind, and I'm like, I'm just like this. And so what was crazy, what happened later, if that's what you're referring to, the 2 days after, I started getting these texts from just people that were close to me, and they're like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I have your back, and I know the why. I know the reason why you did this. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I didn't even know. And then come to find out, there were so many things circulating on social media, and they had screenshotted, like, when you take me dressed up in a pretty dress and I'm like smiling, and then he's shaving my head, right? And I think what killed me or upset me the most is that I upset people, and it was people who had cancer, right? So some of them were like people who were maybe going through it, and it was like, you're not strong, you haven't lost your eyebrows or your nails or any, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I don't have, it's gotten thickened up over the years, but I care so much what other people think. Maybe not necessarily like what I'm wearing, but like if I find out that I've hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, it's like that I'm gonna lose sleep at night. And I know it's something you have to get past, but I sat there and I just like, my DMs were blowing up. And it's like, although you had 1,000 positive things, I was still focused 100%. Responding to every single one of them. And Micah kept saying like, babe, you can't like put your time and energy. And I was like, I know, but I just want them to like know the real reason why. And so finally I just got on Instagram, and I looked like death. I was just like, I was defeated. I was just like, I have to just put my story out there, tell them, like explain why. And if they still can't see it, then that's okay. And I had to accept that. And so the next day was when I started with, I'd ordered my wig from Wigs by Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany. And I was like, I want to start trying these wigs and buying them and seeing how they are, so that I can like, honestly talk about them. And so I started the tutorials starting from then. And I've even had people come up and who have admitted that they were one of those people, but then they've seen like where, you know, what it's become. Yes. And if you told me, and then that's where like the power of God and following him, right? It's like now I help people all over the world. Like I have someone in Milan and she texts me all the time, but she's like, and I love it. But it's like the fact that Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we can now connect with all over the world. And I have like a lady in Israel, and she sent me a selfie, and she's like, I've been looking for a page to see how to grow out my hair. I just didn't know the demand that was needed out there. I didn't. And I don't think I would have ever known that if this wouldn't have happened, you know? So yes, we definitely work with post-chemo. My goal is to actually like have an educational portal for stylists and salons, because I'm one person, but if you know, all stylists could feel comfortable, it's crazy that the most common thing I heard is people come back to me and they say, my stylist says just keep letting it grow, because they don't know necessarily what to cut without backtracking. So it's truly, there's techniques and a whole process behind it, because people today are still just like, what do you mean you help people grow your hair out? You know, it's just, but there's help needed.
Isn't it so crazy that you feel called to do something and you focus so much on just the small town I'm going to call it out, the small town mentality when you're making a bigger impact? Yes, it is the internet, but a lot of it probably was from people, or some of it could have been from people that you knew, and that it could have shocked you, where it could have stopped you. But in reality, not everybody follows God. Not everybody followed God. Like, so like in the same sense, like this is your calling, and it all makes sense now. So in that moment of like you feeling like, holy shit, what did I just do? Let me back up. Did you ever feel regret of walking on stage and shaving your head?
Not one time.
Did you just feel like, because you are a people pleaser, you were like, I just wanted everybody to really understand my story, but I only had a poster and I had to shave my head and I haven't been able to explain?
Yes, because at that point, I knew God was having me do this for a reason, so there was no regret. It was just more of like, honestly, but it's probably good, because if someone said there was going to be negative, I was so naive that like that was the last thing in my head that it could have been twisted that way. But it's good that I didn't think of that, because I probably would have not done it, right? I didn't even think like, oh my gosh, people could be offended by this. So no, I didn't regret it. And if anything, it was just those days of just like you said, feeling bad that these other people are feeling that towards what I did kind of thing. But there was a text that I got during that time from one of my friend's dad. He's so sweet. And I don't remember exactly what it said. I just remember what I got from it was that like, when you are called to do something, you can't please him and everyone around you. So it's like if he's the focus, then it's like that's all that matters. And it is something that you have to remind yourself, you know?
Yeah, because he is who we live for.
Correct.
And so I'm proud of you. So for you, if no one's told you, I'm freaking proud of you.
Thanks, Shelby.
You're welcome. Because like you literally built this business, you retired, you were like, cool, I'm fine. And then God was like, not really, I'm not done with you.
Right. And that was the year I retired. So, or like I say retired, I work full time now, but behind the chair, and it has allowed me to have that freedom. So 2 days a week is when I take clients, and we donate that time. But, you know, it's like I wouldn't have really, if I was still behind the chair, wouldn't have had that time, or, you know, it would have been harder. So, yeah, it's crazy how it all happened.
I want to ask you, because I think we have like 10 minutes left or something, 10 minutes. Oh my gosh. I know, right? And I want to ask you all the questions because everybody wants to know all the things. I do want to talk about you as a mama and you running such an empire that you've built, and the balance, like the guilt, or how do you get through it? How do you balance it all? Like, what is your like one piece of advice to people sitting in here that they feel called to do something bigger, but also too, they are called to be a mom, and they want to be present, and they want to like love on their kids and show them the legacy they're building? What is your advice?
Well, so, and you're asking me, I feel like at like the hardest stage in life right now, and if I said it was easy, I'd be lying, right? We know that. Okay, so I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. Well, he'll be 2 in January. And my 3-year-old is and guilt is such a thing, right? And so we're in this phase right now. My 3-year-old Addison, every morning, the first question that comes out of her mouth is, Mommy, do y'all have work today? And then it's like, no, but the weekend's in 3 days. And then when we get home, it's, Mommy, is it the weekend? And it's like, no, baby, we got 2 more days. So what I started doing with her is actually educating her on why Mommy and Daddy work. So now when she says, Mommy, do y'all have work today? I say, yes, but why do we have work? And she goes, to provide for our family? And I said, yes. I said, so you can go to school and play with your friends and go to the trampoline park. And you know, whether she fully understands that, but I don't know if it's a coincidence. Today's the first morning she hasn't asked. So it's like maybe she is catching on. I just never want our kids to feel, and we want more, but it's like, it's that constant struggle of, do we have more? Because are we spreading ourselves too thin? I never want our kids to feel like we leave because they're not important, and just knowing that like your mommy and daddy work hard and it's out of love kind of thing. But the biggest piece of advice, I'm sure the good answer would be like, find your balance, blah, blah, blah. But I'll be the first one to tell you, I struggle with that, right? It's like, I'm one of those people who follow those people who preach about there's no such thing as balance. It's like, maybe an average overall, but like there's times where work takes precedent, and then there's times with family. But I set the boundaries. Like, I try to get home for 4:30 every day, and it's like my people at work know, like, y'all don't call me between 4:30 and bedtime. And if they do, they hear why, because it's either screaming or playing or mommy, you know, it's like that's their time. But my biggest piece of advice, because I was like thinking like what really does allow me, and it's creating a support system. And it starts with at home. And mine is my husband. Like, he is such a hands-on dad, and it is very helpful. It's like, if you are a working mom, okay, if you and your husband both work, there is no such thing, like in our household, there is no such thing as, hey, you're the wife, so you have to do this or this or this. Yeah. And if that is the household you do live in, then it truly is time to set this expectation, to change the expectations, because it's not fair that we don't have that balance, or that we have to have all that weighed on us. Right. And it's like, if you are doing all that, when do you have the time to focus on you personally? Or like, if you are trying to a new ambition, it's our new dream, when are you going to find time to do that if you work 9 to 5 and then you have kids and your husband expects you to have the house clean and do all the things? It has to, your marriage has to be a partnership. And if anyone's not married here and they're single, then that's a quality I would say to look for in a man. And it's just, and so if you're a single mom, it's like, that's even harder, right? It's like you're doing it all by yourself. So in those moments, it's like, okay, you have to set time aside for you, and it takes planning. So time block, it's like, hey, I need 3 hours this week. And it starts small. You don't have to accomplish everything in 1 week, right? Whether you choose to go get your nails done or read, or I don't know, if you are following a new dream, it's like you're going to put 3 hours towards that. And mentally prepare yourself, because like I know on nights if I have to work and it's after bedtime, that's like 9:30. In the morning, I have to say, okay, I'm going to be up till midnight, and I have to like prepare for that, right? But setting that, and so you have and then wait, I will say this. This is like just a feeling, because I hear this a lot with my girlfriends. I'm like, they like don't want to leave their kids home with with the dad, or if they do, it's a quick.
Yeah, they're like they don't know what to do.
And the dad's like texting them within 1 hour.
How many? Raise your hands. Last night or yesterday, you know what to do? What do I do? Write it down. What do we do during the day? What?
And here's my thing. I'm like, these are men who are like natural providers, natural protectors. Like their kids are going to be fine, right? Now, you're going to walk in. The house could be a disaster. They might have skipped a meal. They could be eating ice cream, but it's like, they're alive and well. So like, just lower the expectations, but be happy they gave you time, and don't go home because you're only enabling that behavior. So it's just like, I just see it a lot from the outside, and it's not fair to like, I've always been a working person, so that's what Mike and I like met on. So it's like, if you have been that stay-at-home mom, and then now you're shifting and you're trying to find something new, or like, a part-time thing, it's just communicating with your husband and setting those expectations, like, hey, I need this from you. And that's a part of like supporting each other, because you can't, I love this saying, but you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to fill yours first. And I still try to coach myself on that, right? It's not like a natural thing every day. I have to remind myself.
Because we naturally, as women, also just want to do it all ourselves. Like, truly, I'm a micromanager. I mean, I'm sure people around here probably see that today and like yesterday. I'm really sorry, love you all. But like, it's true though, and like we can't let go.
And okay, so you with a business, and this is business owners, and even just if you're like a high position in your company, like the first second that you feel like that you find someone you can take a hat off to, you have to. Like, you have to build a leadership team under you, otherwise everything falls on you. And it's like, it's that delegation and stuff like that. And I have 2 positions in my company right now, and they're drowning. And it's like, we're in that growing pain phase where it's like, okay, we have to start creating teams under them, Because it's not fair for them to go home and work, 4 hours extra when they don't even own the business. It's like, so it's delegating and creating that support around babysitters, family, friends, and it's okay to ask. I've learned it's okay to ask.
It's okay just to chase your dreams. So everyone in here, we're giving you permission, and everyone listening on the podcast, we're giving you permission. Thank you so much. That went by like so freaking fast. I'm like, okay, we're great. We just sat down.
When's the next one?
Okay. December. Okay. All right, guys. I didn't do this last time, but I'm going to sign off. But if you are listening to this, leave us a review, like, comment, and until next time, let's freaking get it.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Damn Good Marketing Podcast. Thank you all so much for being here. Make sure you comment, review, share it with a friend. Come back next week. And until next time, let's freaking get it.